This is the Town Council meeting of North Branford, Tuesday, August 17, 2021, Town Council Chambers at 7:05 p.m. We'll start with a salute to the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Michelle, roll call, please.
Mayor Viglione.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Zampiano.
Here.
Councilor Angeloni.
Here.
Councilor Diamond.
Here.
Councilor Duty. Councilor Downs.
Here.
Councilor Fawnin. Councilor Goode.
Here.
Councilor Palicia.
Okay, next we have the minutes of the previous meeting, August 3rd, 2021, WPCA and Town Council.
So moved. Second.
All right, motion by Councilor Angeloni, second by Councilor Diamond. Any discussion? We have a vote, please, Michelle.
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstain?
Okay, move into the regular Town Council meeting. First, we have reports of committees, boards, and commissions versus Economic Development Commission minutes from EDC meeting 8/2/2021.
I was unable to attend the EDC meeting last week or 2 weeks ago, but there's quite extensive notes from the minutes, and also I know the Pines in Northford, which is the luxury apartment apartments that are being proposed to be built by the ice rink. They are planning to make a pre-application meeting with P&Z in September. And also, one of their biggest concerns has been the sewer connection fee. And that was a possibility of coming to the council to see once if we would consider making any adjustment in the sewer connection fee, which is currently at $12,300 per unit. And so I guess they are working around that with a trade-off with the tax deferral program that we've had in place all along. So the tax deferral, so they're looking at that to weigh the differences between the two. The tax deferral program is a 5-year program where they phase in the assessment on the buildings. So I think that's one of the avenues that they're going to be looking at in regards to that. And Citrine Power, who is doing the solar field on 22 there, they have a connectivity agreement with the UI, and they could possibly be starting work in September on that installation. And that's it.
Okay. Thanks, Rose. Next, we have Parks and Recreation.
Their next meeting is next Tuesday.
Okay, next we have the Police Commission.
The Police Commission did not meet, however, I'd just like to report to the Town Council that the Police Commission is in receipt of a proposed contract for a tower on Tilcon Mountain. I think the Commission will be looking at that at their next meeting, and then it'll be coming to the Town Council. So things are moving along in terms of the communications piece.
Good. Okay, thanks, Marie.
I just have a question on that in regards to an email that we all received about the lease on the tower lease. And is that something that, because does the council vote on that, or does the police commission vote on the lease for approval? Because according to the email that was sent to us, it seemed like they would come to us after they voted on it, but if they already voted on it, why come to the council with it?
I think it's important that it come to the council. I think the Police Commission will vote on it, but I think they tend to bring it to the Town Council.
Well, that's fine, but I'm just wondering who has the authority on the lease.
It's the council that has the authority. The police commission would vote to make a recommendation to the council. But the ultimate authority only the legislative body has the authority to bind the municipality.
Okay, that's what I was wondering, because that's,
Unless you've delegated that authority, but I do not believe you've delegated that much of the authority of this project to the police commission.
okay, so because that's definitely not the way that email read.
Well, I think that'll happen in case of both towers. It would just be a recommendation to the town council to make the final decision.
Okay, so as being the liaison to the police commission and part of communications, I know you've been very involved in this. Can you just make sure that happened, that they all understand that
I will.
their vote is a recommendation and it's not a binding?
When they have a meeting in September, I'll remind them of that.
On that, so, okay, thank you.
Thanks, Rich.
Okay, next is Fire Commission.
Mr.
Ron?
Mayor, I would like to speak, if I could, about the
Yes.
fire commission.
Sure.
I am very upset about what's happened. I think that just as soon as the chair of the fire commission made it known to the town manager that there was a problem with the new truck, I think that immediately the town council should have been notified, as we're often notified about different problems, and I think the town attorney should have been notified. This is something that's a 30-year investment. It's something that's important to us. It's important to our firefighters who are always helping us. And I do not like the way the chairman of the fire commission was treated. He asked on a couple of occasions if he could meet with the town attorney. He literally waited in the parking lot one day when he was notified by someone in town hall that the town attorney was going to be present so that he could talk to the town attorney. You know, there's a problem with the truck. There are 4 missing pump nozzles that are supposed to be on that truck. You know, this is an important piece of equipment to us. It's important to the firefighters, it's important to this town. I just feel that when a chairman of a commission has a problem, he should have a response immediately. I'm not blaming the town attorney. I know that I see you have a package of materials there. It's been a long time. It happened in July. I firmly believe that with all the documentation that the chair of that fire commission has, and the fire commissioners and the firefighters feel that something should have been done sooner, and I hope that that the town attorney will be able to look at that. I know there's an issue about the color, but I'm also concerned about the fact that there are 4 missing pump nozzles, and I think that it's important that the chair of the fire commission be listened to, that you have an opportunity to explain what the problem is, and that we respond, and that the town council remains informed of the problem. I'm very concerned about it, and I think that's why some of the commissioners are here tonight, because they're very concerned. This is something that's it's a major piece of equipment for this town, and we have to support our firefighters, and we can't do that if there's something wrong with a fire truck. That's my thought on it.
Thank you.
Well, I've been working on this for a few weeks, and part of the problem is that when the town attorney was given some of the documents, from my understanding, is that it wasn't the complete set, so that the emails that were referenced, he didn't have all the contracts and all of the other things to look at what was said in the email and go back and trace it, and that's what that pile is on the desk. So he now has the complete package so that he can look at everything and go through. But ultimately, the first step is that when that contract was entered into last year, it was never given to the town attorney to look at either.
Well,
And that's a big step. This is a major investment for the town, and so that message to all boards and commissions when you are buying something like this, the town attorney really needs to look at these things. And so, now we have to kind of backtrack a little bit on there, which we can and we will do it and get this resolved, because I totally agree with you that we need to give them all of the tools that they need, and to listen to them.
And I understand, and I'm not saying that the town attorney.
No, I know.
Because I know he didn't get all the information he should have had.
If I may, just to the council, I try to make myself as accessible as possible to all the boards and commissions. Most members of the boards and commissions I've given my card to, which has my cell phone on it. The chair of fire commission and I have texted and communicated. I know it hasn't advanced as quickly as he would like, but what's most important, rather than speed, is that we get it done correctly. And in order for me to advance it correctly, I needed to have the universe of documents, which I don't know if I have, but I have a bunch of documents right here that I'm going to review, and I'll try to get to these this week. I've seen a bunch of emails, and I've reviewed a bunch of emails between the parties, meaning the police, the fire commission, and the vendor. The vendor's referencing certain documents that I did not have, and I've requested copies of those, and I hope that those are here, because I want to make certain that if we're going to take a posture, that the posture we take is appropriate. So I will assure the council, as I will assure the fire commission members that are here, that the town will be represented appropriately, and I'll make sure that we put our best foot forward. I just need to know what foot to stand on.
Vin, when did you get all of the information?
This was waiting for me tonight.
So you didn't get everything you needed till tonight? Today?
Well, again, I haven't reviewed this pile yet. I sent an email, I believe, about 2 weeks ago, or a week ago, Friday, asking, so what had happened is, I was here at Town Hall. The chair of the fire commission wanted to see me. There was a bunch of different meetings going on, and I ended up meeting the chair in the parking lot. He handed me some documents. Those documents consisted primarily of emails between, I believe it was the fire chief and the vendor, and it might have been some of the commission members as well, and the vendor, talking about the issues. That is not enough for me to opine on what direction we need to go in, because I need to see the contracts and what the language of the contracts say, and what did we agree to, and what did we agree to knowingly or unknowingly, and those are all facts that I don't yet have. So for me to contact a vendor taking a position that the truck needs to be of a certain color and of a certain character and have certain nozzles, I need to know that that's what the contract says before I can take that position. Otherwise, I'll lose credibility immediately with the vendor. So within the emails, in addition to the emails, there was a document from, I believe it was March of 2020, that I went through that document and I highlighted it, and it clear to me that based upon that document, what the commission members believed they were getting is detailed in that, I think it was a detail order. I think it was March of 2020. And however, in an email, I believe it was in July 20th of this year, the vendor references a document from June of 2020 that suggests to me that that's what the vendor was relying upon when they put in the order. And there was a distinction between the model of truck that we ordered, because it had a 3/4 height cab, and the vendor said, we ordinarily, I've never seen a truck with two colors of a black stripe and red on a truck of this nature. Again, it doesn't matter if the vendor's never seen it. If that's what we ordered, then that's what we ordered. But I needed to see the underlying documents that the vendor was referencing. And see, again, maybe there was inadvertence on our part, maybe the vendor is misstating, I don't know. But those are things that I will hopefully discover when I review this document, or this pile of documents. And after I review the pile, then I'll be able to either have a conversation with the chief and the chair, and so that we can discuss strategy if that need be, or if it's clear on its face that what we ordered is what they're claiming, and I have documents that I can rely upon, I can simply call the vendor and say, you're not, you need to give us what we contracted for. So, that's the direction that we will take, and, if I can't get to it this week, it'll definitely be gotten by next Wednesday. What I would ask, the town manager to assist me, I'm in town hall every Wednesday, for about 2 hours, is that if the chief and the chair are available, if I can't get to them before next Wednesday, that a meeting be scheduled for next Wednesday, so that it's at least a date certain that we'll discuss next steps.
Well, I think that's what's important, that you keep in contact with the chair of the commission and the chief. That's what's important.
Absolutely.
Do you have the contract and the build sheet now? Do you have both of those?
I haven't reviewed this pile, so I don't know.
So we don't even know if you have everything yet.
Right, I
We
have to
don't know.
review this, and then I'll be able to tell. I'm assuming
Yeah.
that what is here, I asked for the universe of documents, meaning all documents regardless of the relevancy, meaning that if you wrote something on the back of a napkin, I want the napkin. You know, I want everything, and then I'll determine the relevance of the document based upon my review. That's what I asked for, and in an email that I sent, again, about a week or two ago, I detailed about 15 or 20 items that I wanted. I assumed what I got was what I asked for. And if what I got was what I asked for, and this is the universe of documents, then I believe I should have everything. But I will not know that until I review the documents.
Thank you.
If I could say something.
Yeah, Ed, you guys are here for this?
Yeah.
Yeah, why
I mean,
don't you come up and talk?
I know originally, I mean, my original coming to meet the attorney, I know you said, I think things happen that should happen faster, but in my defense, I was fighting a salesman. I was trying to stop the salesman from doing the build, and the salesman would not stop. So I needed to know what legally I could do to stop, because I didn't want to get stuck with this truck. And when I said to the salesman, please stop the build, until he said no. He said, I am not stopping the build, because I don't talk to you. I talk to the chief, and I talk to the deputy chief. So my original coming to meet the attorney was, I needed to stop the build. And this guy refused to stop the build. What is my stance here? What am I have to stop the build. And the original documents that I gave him, I mean, you got 250 pages of documents there. The most important things, I mean, I handed you that day, and the thing is, the colors are all specific out in here. The guy even referenced them. I mean, I know you've seen this. He just referenced the red and the black. He didn't say where the red and the black was going, but the picture that we gave him, and Joseph Adele was at the meeting, the original picture we gave him, the guy put a number on it. And it was 1408, whatever it was, 14083. It was a picture with the truck black and red. That was the number. And everything that was referenced. And then all of a sudden, they decided that it wouldn't look good, that it wouldn't go with it. But I mean, that's like, you buying a car and you want black interior, and the factory decides it doesn't look good with black, we're gonna put red in it, and not call you. They did not call us. That's why. So, I mean, the only reason why I came quick I had to stop the build, because I was afraid they were gonna say, you know what? You never tried to stop us, now you're stuck with it. And I don't wanna get stuck with an $800,000 piece that we don't want. So, that's the only issue I wanted to clear up.
Okay, thanks, Ed.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Marie, thank you. All right, next Board of Education and Town Council Communications Subcommittee.
No meetings.
Next, we have Planning and Zoning Commission.
Meeting Thursday.
Next is Finance Subcommittee.
We have not had a meeting since June. We didn't have any meetings scheduled for the rest of this year, so I would like to schedule one for September 8th, which is the second Wednesday in September, at 5:30. Okay, and then, so if there's items that come up for the agenda, or if anyone has any items for the agenda, just let me know so that we can get it on there.
Okay. Thank you. Next is Permanent Project Building Committee, North Branford High School update, and North Branford Police Department update. I don't know if anybody's here. No.
Yeah, I thought we would have Al Rose, I thought was going to come, but I don't see him.
I didn't see him.
Did not have a meeting last night, but I did send out an email a half hour ago, or less than an hour. I got a call from Amar from Gilbane. They're looking at the steel package, and he's requesting a special meeting for Thursday. So I'm going to be working on that tomorrow, and I guess the issue is looking at trying to lock that that low bid or bidder on the steel package. So we'll take a look at it, and I'll try to, if we can, call a meeting for Thursday for a special meeting. But
Okay. Victor, do you have, excuse me, Mike, do you have
Yeah.
something to?
Yeah, the Permanent Project Building Committee 2 weeks ago made a motion to have Al Rose as the only Permanent Project Building Committee member to speak on behalf of the entire Permanent Project Building, to report back to the council on both projects, actually all 3 projects. So anything that has to get back to any council member, Al Rose is basically was voted to be the only person to communicate back and forth to the council, so there'll be no, nothing will get convoluted. But on another quick note, as from the police commission side, I'm the one who sent that email out in reference to the communications. The intent of that email, if it got misconstrued, was let the committee, communications committee vote, recommend to the police commission. Police commission will then make a recommendation to the council, which has the governing body for finances. So no contracts will ever be entered again like Carson Chill without council's approval. So if anybody took my email a little wrong, I apologize, but the intent was to follow the chain of command back to the council for a yes or no on contracts.
Okay, thanks, Vic.
So if they want to meet on Thursday, the permanent project, I don't know what time they're looking to meet, but that is the Board of Education meeting that night.
Okay.
Also, so my guess is it's going to have to be like late afternoon or something, because I believe your first contract.
It's at 5:30.
Right. So you just kind of got to.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think it's a 10, 15-minute meeting, and I'm hoping that we can do it virtually, and maybe it is the afternoon, so we don't bump up against those issues and be able to have the members there.
Okay.
So I'll work on that.
Okay. Next is town manager's report. First is update on COVID-19 testing and vaccine.
Right, yeah, so, full packet with the slides provided from East Shore District Health Department, and I'll just kind of get to the highlights, which, for the month of August, 27 cases for North Brantford, positive cases, and when August started, and the first batch of numbers came in, it was in the first week or 9 days, we had 24 cases. It looked like it was like, oh boy, we got a hot spot here. And so in the next, couple of days, last report was 27. So, if it had gone 25 per week, we'd would have we'd hit 100 for August, and looked like it was, February or March earlier in the year. So East Shore District is still tracking that. I don't know where we are beyond 27. That's the latest data. But, it is a little bit concerning. So the district got together with the other towns and talked about, the mask policy, and stopped short of a mandate, and is strongly recommending indoor, both vaccinated, unvaccinated, and look at distancing and separation as well. So the state may come into play at some point. The governor may do something, but, I think most health departments and towns are all waiting for that, but that hasn't come yet. So all of us are working together to try and coordinate amongst the 3 of us within the health district, at least to try to coordinate that messaging, and continue to monitor the numbers, continue to promote the vaccination clinics, and also most recently, we'll be on a call and try to figure out whether or not there's going to be, this booster, and if that's going to be a requirement or a recommendation, I guess. We're just going to be searching and looking for information so that we can disseminate to our employees and the community and the residents. So it's a wait and see, watch and monitor, and we're back to doing the weekly calls to see where our caseload goes. So,
Michael,
there's a lot in here, and a lot of graphics. I just included the other towns as well, just so you can see we're trending the wrong way. We're at 33rd, I think, is where we landed in the 169 towns. So again, low number is not good, and we're trying to get the word out again about trying to get vaccinations.
Michael, will the town be giving out the boosters also, like we did
Yeah,
with the-
it's too early to tell, Mayor. I don't know yet. Again, we're going to hope to gather information on what that's going to look like, and just confirmation that it is, sound policy, that it is a directive coming from, national CDC or what have you. Let the medical field decide, and then, it'll trickle down to us and so in terms of best practice, or in this case, recommendation, and whether or not, that's going to come through.
Okay.
What I read in here, it sounds like that's what's coming.
Well, I heard on the news today that people that are immunocompromised, they're already making appointments to get their boosters. That's the first group, and only that group right now, not the rest of us that just got it like the spring or whatever. If you're not in a specific category, they're not making appointments for you yet.
I heard that too, Rose, and I heard 8 months after,
months,
after the
yes.
first vaccine, or second.
Mike, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. No.
Mike, I had asked last meeting, out of all the people that have tested positive in town, how many are hospitalized?
Yeah, I don't think, we have 0 hospitalizations as far as I know. I will check again with
Yes.
Michael.
So
but
they're just basically people testing positive?
Yes, right. And again, just so you know, the statistic for the hospitalizations, 97%, or I think maybe statewide is 97. Here it's, I think the director said 97.5 are unvaccinated individuals, right? So that only 2.5 are having what is considered a breakthrough, if you will, in terms of the variant of the Delta variant. So again, so that's why we're back to pushing information, vaccinations, clinics, and trying to get past north of 70 and higher. So I think as a town, I think we have a slide in there. First dose, we're at I think 67, almost 68%. Again, just trying to push that number higher.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah.
Okay, next is update on town's plan to revamp its website.
Actually, I think Anthony's here, but not much to report other than Anthony's working. We'd like to, try to coordinate and bring in the.
Going to start in September, having different companies come, one per meeting, to, as I think Councilor Duty had suggested last meeting, to make a presentation to you what they could offer, some of the bells and whistles they may have. So starting in September, we'll have one per meeting for probably all of September and October. The goal is to get numbers in time for the budget process, and then we'll see how it goes from there. But I want to give people a chance that want to come forward and make presentations, proposals, whether it's the large commercial ones or the smaller houses that can do websites for us. So starting in September, you'll see presentations on every meeting.
Okay. Next is update on American Rescue Plan federal stimulus money.
Yes, as I mentioned at the last meeting, had an interesting meeting, had set up a meeting with Courtney Henderson of Advanced Connecticut. She actually walked, for myself and Roger, on August 10th, walking us through what is going to be the second infusion, or I should say, the second opportunity for federal funding in the infrastructure plan. It's coming in what they call the Innovation Corridor is one sector, and then Connecticut Communities Challenges. And it looks like it'll be ready in terms of the applications coming out for the fall of this year, 2021, and then another bite of the apple in fall of 2022. She broke it down for us and said that the Innovation Corridor is likely to be larger communities, larger investments, up to $50 million, so very large scale. projects. The Connecticut Communities Challenge program will be competitive grants between 1 and 10 million, with a sweet spot probably being between 1 and 5 million. So there, she feels that our best opportunities are, one, if we wanted to look at the economic development side of the advanced manufacturing program that Roger and the Economic Development Commission have been talking about as potential. Certainly the sewer project along Route 80 in terms of economic development as we build out toward the Guilford line, and other projects that may be designed or focused around economic development, job creation, that sort of components. So, I mean, water could be, but again, I think the first round of the what's called the ARP funds is probably more appropriate for water, and whereas the other projects we outlined here, water, sewer, economic development type of projects would work better for this Community Challenges grant.
So this is different than the federal money that
Yeah.
we're just automatically getting, this we
Yeah.
have to apply for?
Exactly. This is going to be, the first one is the ARPA, the American Rescue Plan funds. We already have the first tranche. We have 4.1 million. We've got the first batch of 2 million already. The next tranche will come next year. Those are clearly, again, we talked about, and again, I can come back to the council, and I think it's important to look at the other areas that aren't really as clear-cut as water, sewer, and broadband, and economic development and so forth. But that is the first pot of money. This Communities Challenge grant is going to come in the fall and then next year as well, and that is competitive grant funding for infrastructure.
Okay. And that's federal money?
That's federal money as well,
Oh.
passing through the state.
Okay.
Yep, that won't come directly to us, unlike ARP, which is coming directly to us. This is going to, and my understanding, is going to pass through the state.
So the state is the one that will award the grants?
Well, I'm not quite sure. Actually, those are the questions we had in terms of waiting for the application. I think it's all being developed right now, and so we were getting sort of guidance on to what they see as how this is going to roll out throughout the state. But my understanding is the state and some group that the governor puts together or designates is going to review these applications and award these applications.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay, next is update on town planner position.
So if I could just back to, the first round, American Rescue Plan, I think the last time we talked about water and sewer for the police department and public works, and at the last meeting, I think the minutes will reflect that they had a motion to recommend to the council that at least water go. They would give up on the sewer, but would like to see water be placed in this program to benefit both public works and police departments. So that was a motion that came out of their meeting a week ago Monday. And so what I'm doing is I've met with RWA, help and assistance with both Victor and Fran, to try and get them information so they can give us a better estimate. I gave you a back of the napkin type of estimate that came from them, ballpark. So now we're going to go through an application process to try and get some real numbers in terms of what that would be. And again, eligible under ARPA funds. Again, so I think it's going to, as we go through that process, I think September should be an opportunity to talk about whether or not you want to go beyond just infrastructure, water, sewer, broadband discussion, to talk about some of the other things that OPM and the state are giving guidance on. I do have another meeting set up for tomorrow, statewide, that's giving guidance on ARPA as well. I think they're going to get into conversations about how towns are helping in an economic development way through at least evaluating nonprofits and whether or not they're going to pass through any money to nonprofits which are eligible as well. So I think I'd like come back in September, hopefully have some numbers in a ballpark. And the other interesting component of the RWA project was about timing. And so the preliminary information I have is probably 3 months, probably less than 3 months, I think is the notes. But I'll get clarification on that in terms of actually, I'm sorry, it wasn't even 3 months. I was thinking 3 months. I think he said it was 3 to 4 weeks. So it's not a very long project, but I'll get clarification on that along with the number. Because that was important for the Permanent Project Building Committee to know in terms of the timing of rebidding, and the reason they put a recommendation together is that it's gonna change the components of the police department. Right now, it's well, so they would have to change some of their design, if you will, components, everything related to water. So there's a potential savings, and that's why they felt strongly that water coming would like to see the council approve that project for water, because it would have a savings for them. Long-term maintenance issues as well. And I know, I can't speak, but Fran could certainly tell you about the benefits of bringing water for his side of the equation.
Okay.
So I think, I just think if we can get to a yes or no on that, that's what the permanent projects are looking for. Either rule it in, rule it out, so they can make their changes and then rebid. Otherwise, they're holding off putting it out to bid.
Fran, you want to say anything about that?
Well, it's a benefit, I mean, the whole park situation there, all the irrigation, right now we use pumps out of the river. So, I mean, having water would be great for me, for washing would be tremendous. As far as the rest of the property, if it's all that would be off well, so. It'd be a benefit, I mean, plus the people going down, 22 would have an option of also getting. We use a lot of water, a ton of water.
Yeah.
People washing and filling up the trucks, so it would be a benefit.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else, Mike, on that?
No, just I'll try to get as much information as I can. Again, I have another call tomorrow to get guidance.
Okay.
And then try to make a note here to bring this back for the council's review for the next meeting in September.
Okay. Next, we have update on town planner position.
Yeah, I added that, I know the council, we've talked about it in terms of the group. So, the planner is leaving, and we're advertising. And again, the reason this is before you is because in that analysis and discussion we had about the group and making changes, the planner wasn't one of them, because the planner just came in a few months ago. So accepted it at that position, waiting for a later review when we brought the consultant on board to look at the compensation study. So we kind of got to put this particular position as one that, well, this person just came in, still needs to be looked at, will be looked at later, not up front on the back end. So lo and behold, the planner's leaving, we're going back out into the market, I've still got a low number. So I've advertised as depending on qualifications. What I have before you is the same database analysis we look at from CCM with respect to the town planner's position. And the position, if you see, median looks at 91. I'm here before you to request that in my process, I'm hoping to get council to agree to go and arrange to help me land the next person, a range of 75 to 85, not going all the way up or beyond 91, but looking at a range of 75 to 85 to later be confirmed or affirmed by the consultant that that's the right range.
I'm sorry, the current what is the current salary?
73.
So you're asking to change it to 75 to 85? You really think that range is gonna get us a bit? How many candidates did we get the last time?
I believe we had 4, interviewed 3.
That's really low.
Yeah.
So was 73 the salary that he went up to as of July 1st? Because, or is that what he started and then then he was gonna go? Because I thought it was in the high 70s that he was going up to on July 1st.
Yeah, and you may be right, it's a 70, he came in at 70, I thought it was a 73, I'll get clarification on that.
I thought he was going to like 78.
Yeah,
That's what I recall.
Yeah, stand by.
yeah, Ant can get that. Yeah.
I think that's bad.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, what is going on with the, do we know what is the status of the compensation analysis? When is that happening?
Bids came in today with 6 firms that responded. So I'll be going through that process, putting together a selection committee to start that process up. But it was better than I thought. I actually thought we're only going to have maybe 2 or 3, but 6 firms. And it just came in today, so I haven't even read through them yet.
And what's the status of the HR person or company or
I have
HR in general?
I have 3 that I've got quotes from, looking at narrowing that down, and I should have that done this week.
Okay,
He was going to 79 even.
okay.
He did go, or was going, where is he at now? So
As of July 1st.
As of July 1st?
79.
Yeah.
So if he's at 79, then I don't think you should, given this information here, I don't think we should go to 75.
Right.
As a low point.
Okay.
I think you should start at the 79. I mean, if you want to keep it at 85, that's
I just
fine.
don't, again, I don't want to shock the council, so I'm just looking for feedback.
But
and
if he's at
guidance. I'd like
if
to
he's
be
at
competitive.
79,
Yeah,
then,
okay.
and that's in the budget, then,
Yeah, okay.
then
But what
I
would
think
be,
that has to be our starting point.
Yeah, okay. I didn't want to go,
Right.
off the charts, and again, but I still want to try to be competitive in the market to try and land somebody. So if somebody's credentialed and has that, and if they're asking, if they're in a position at 85 and looking lateral, and, if I can go to 86, 87 or something like that, again, it's just
Yeah.
looking for guidance.
Yeah, start at 79. That's what he's at. That's what's in the budget, so.
Okay. But any rejection, I mean, if I had, and again, through the process at 85, any reactions at okay, all right. Just
So I feel
can
like if there's a
wiggle.
compensation study coming, then it's not like we're stuck there forever, but
Right.
that's better than 75.
Yeah, okay, great,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay.
I just have a few other, comments. If I could add real quick, just that Rec Department wanted me to announce that the end of the summer luau at the community center is August 26, 5:30 to 7 p.m. I think that's all I've got.
Okay. Next, we have community events and presentations. Nothing. Next, we have citizen statements, petitions, and correspondence. Nathan, you have anything? Michael?
I'm checking, I don't think so.
Nothing yet, no.
Okay. Next, we have resignations and appointments. We have none. And next is unfinished business, discussion and action. The first is update on North Farms park fence.
Yes, we received an email from the surety's attorney stating that the vendor would be on site last week, performing the job in accordance with the specs. If you recall, I had sent a letter or an email in response to a request for a punch list, to which I said, it's way too early in the process for a punch list. here are the specs. This is what we expect. And the response to that email was, quite frankly, unexpected. It was, the vendor will be on site to perform in accordance with the specs. Last Wednesday, on my way back to my office, I stopped on site, and at that time, and I took a series of pictures, photographs of things that stood out to me as potential punch list items. The first tier fencing looked complete to me. There were some issues that I felt needed to be addressed from my perspective that I was going to discuss with the town manager and with the rec department. But since then, I believe, and I'm going to be back on site tomorrow morning to check to see what progress has been had since last Wednesday. There was an email that Jesse forwarded. There's no gate on the main entrance, 3 matte finished poles, scheduled 20 remain despite vendors stating that all poles were replaced. At least 4 upright poles appear to be painted. Upper fence fabric is not to bid specs according to Jesse. Protruding metal and screws were found in numerous locations, and unsecure fence ties in over 45 locations. So that's what Jesse's email states regarding her concerns with the fence. My suggestion is, I'll inspect it again tomorrow. The vendor the vendor's agent was on site, I believe last week, advancing the job. And once we get it to a point of substantial completion, and what does substantial completion mean? Substantial completion means that the fence performs the function that it was intended. The gates are up and it, surrounds the fence. We'll have to make a decision at that point. Do we want to accept the fence in its current form and then negotiate with the vendor and the surety on potential price reductions if we did not get what we bargained for? Or maybe it'll be complete to our satisfaction in accordance with the bid specs. But that's where it stands right now. It does. The fence looked, the first tier looked fine to me, other than some issues. I did not have an immediate concern. I know there was raised last time that someone could run along the fence and kind of get stuck. You really have to be rubbing along the fence in order to get stuck by it. It's not like one of those ties is sticking out an inch. And I walked the entire perimeter and I looked at all the ties. There are some, and I understand the concern, there are some ties where the end is kind of like sticking in an outward direction, but it wasn't so offensive to raise a concern of liability. Again, I think you really need to be hugging the fence in order for it to be liability concern. So those are the types of issues that we're going to have to address from a punch list standpoint. But unless you have anything further to add, I think we have to...
I think that's right on. We're going to meet again internally tomorrow, because I was on site Friday as well, took a bunch of pictures. I went by there this morning, nobody there. And then Jesse and Carrie went out late morning, and then they came up with their observations and punch lists, or notes. So we'll develop that into a punch list tomorrow when we meet. Again, Wednesdays, Vin's on site, so we have the opportunity to do that. And then that'll serve as notice to them that this is what we need.
Franny, have you been to the site recently?
Yes.
And you agree with everything Jess put in her email?
Yeah, there's something, I was concerned about the higher fence. There's some of the, there's twists, it's not tight enough in areas. It's just sad, it's just a very poor job, but again, what Vin said is correct. Most of the ties are bent back enough. Again, you use the playground security stuff. I mean, even you look at bolts that are too long. They left a socket up on top. They didn't finish tightening it. The hinges on the far end aren't black, they're galvanized. I mean, that's all stuff that, maybe we might have to get, but.
I'm going to ask you, I noticed all the bolts were galvanized and not black. I didn't know that was...
There's some other latches that he put on that are galvanized. It's just a really sad, the workmanship is subpar in my book. I mean, and it's a simple job. It really is.
Okay.
But the good news is, we haven't paid any money. So, there's your silver lining.
So, one would hope that the vendor at this point in time knows how much we are looking at this and would just, like, he knows that things are not, things that we would have agreed to before. Now, at this point in time, it's just like,
It's a game.
right,
And then his email, I took a lot of offense to the email I saw about how he wanted to get paid. And, you know, one of my guys bent one of the rails supposedly or something, and, you know, grass was high. The whole thing is offensive. It just,
did they back off on lawyer fees?
Well, the response I got to my email was, the vendor will be on site and perform in accordance with your specs.
Yeah,
Disregarded everything else that I said.
yeah, okay.
So I took that, coming from another lawyer, I took that as,
We got the
I don't
message.
have a response.
Okay.
You know, and, you know, it almost like a silent admission that you're right. And again, I don't know, and, you know, we may have to have a conversation with the third-party fence vendor to say what is industry standard. Like, again, if it were, you know, if I were being picky and I said, you know, you got your top rail and you got your top of your fence fabric, and in some areas, the top of the fence fabric is level with that top rail, and in other areas, it goes up one or two rungs of the fence fabric. I don't know if that's industry standard if your topography is not level. So, you know, we want a job performed in accordance with industry standards. So, you know, we don't want to be super picky, and we don't want to come across as being super picky. So before we address issues like that, I need to know what is industry standard. But so if you go to look, there are areas that I noted that where the fence fabric is above the top rail by a rung or two, but it starts level. And, you know, so I took notes and I took pictures, and I'll ask questions.
like the upper fabric, some of it's overlap, some of it's not, and it's not tight. It's not, you can see the bunch of, you know, and I'm not even being picky friend, I'm telling you, that wouldn't stay at my house, I can tell you that. Absolutely not. But, again, there's a standard that, you know, there is a standard out there, but the tightness of the fence needs to be fixed. It's just a sad situation for it.
Okay, thanks.
How many more meetings will we have about this?
Well, I'm tired of going over there, to be honest, because I've been at the park more than I've ever been.
We should definitely be concluded by Halloween.
Okay.
All right. Next, we have memo from Michelle Knockwood regarding bid results for RFP/Q number 14, 2020, 2021, town engineer consultant services, table from until July.
And actually, you should have an updated memo from Victor, and he was here to speak to that process that they went through.
Hi, so so last week, we put together a selection review committee that consisted of the Director of Public Works, Fran, myself, and the Assistant Town Engineer from the town of Wallingford, Tiffany Shipman, who has some experience with some projects in her town that were also coordinated through some DOT funding. So she had a pretty good system for the review process, and she was also familiar with the 4 firms that we interviewed. That was based on a total of 7 firms that had submitted to the RFPQ. So I kind of narrowed it down to 4 firms that kind of fell under some of the more disciplines or projects that we're anticipating in the future, which were more towards the realm of land surveying. Also, we have some considerations for culvert and bridge upgrades coming up, which involve some hydraulics and engineering associated with that. And also, obviously, the larger projects that we're talking about are the largest being the sewer extensions, and which would probably include some pump stations with them. So out of the 4 firms, we all agreed and recommended 3 of those firms. which were Nafis and Young Engineers out of Northford, Nathan L. Jacobson Associates out of Chester, and Weston and Sampson out of Rocky Hill. Again, they all carried the land surveying quality with them. Some would probably be more suited towards smaller projects, others towards larger projects, and they all also carried the disciplines for the culvert and bridge repairs and sewer extensions. So I also included a schedule of billing rates with for each of those three companies with a suggested motion, which again suggests that we list those three firms as on-call engineers. So process would be, if we ever decide to do any work with them, we'd probably bring the projects back to this commission and so with a guidance or a project description of what we're doing, and select at least one of those firms, depending on the size of the project and the discipline of the project, or again give it a kind of like almost like a mini bid process where we get quotes from each of those firms for the project at hand and weigh the pros and cons of the numbers that we get on that. Mike and I talked about having the bid be active for 3 years with a possibility to extend another 2 years based on a mutual agreement with each of those firms if they were willing. And I guess the only other thing the fourth firm that we interviewed was Cardinal Engineers. They happen to fall on the Scrog bid, which is also another on-call bid that the Southern Connecticut said what? I gotta make sure I get it. Southern Connecticut Regional Council of Governments.
Yep.
And they're doing a similar bid with a lot more engineers. They already have the engineers all listed on their bid and the whole process for selecting engineers. They have more disciplines that they considered as far as transportation, environmental concerns and things like that. So Cardinal is on that list with, again, a bunch of other engineers that kind of give us the option to also fall on that bid if we ever wanted to, if the three that we're picking here didn't quite match up with the project that we have at hand. And I guess to kind of sum all that up, I'm hoping that from my standpoint that I can take on, obviously as many of these projects without having to hire these the firms for these projects, but some of these projects just require those expertise. They'd be more full-time projects with the field inspection, the design work and things like that. So I have more of the everyday operations that I keep going and hand over the bigger projects to these types of firms.
Is there like a retainer fee to have these three on call, or is it just?
No, it's just, I guess the good luck that they get to be listed with us as, their good luck that they get to be listed with us as being a on-call option for us. Bragging rights.
All right, I'd like to make a motion that the North Brantford Town Council authorizes Michael T. Paulus, Town Manager, to select the firms to be considered for on-call engineering services in response to RFP/Q number 14, 2021, Town Engineer Consultant Services, and authorizes Michael T. Paulus to enter into an agreement with said firms, subject to review and approval of said agreement by the town attorney. The selected firms are as follows: Nafis and Young Engineers of Northford, Connecticut, Nathan Jacobson and Associates of Chester, and Weston and Sampson of Rocky Hill. This on-call list will be active for 3 years with a mutual option for the firms in the town of North Brantford to renew for another 2 years.
I'll second that. Okay, motion was made by Councilor Angeloni, seconded by Councilor Gold. Any discussion? You have a vote, Michelle?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain?
Okay. Next we have award of RFQ/P number 4, 2020-2021, clerk of the works for the new North Brantford Police Department from the Permanent Project Building Committee.
Yeah, they have
We have
yet,
to still table this, right?
yeah, they have yet to take action on that.
Okay. All right, next we have a review proposed amendment for intermunicipal animal control agreement.
Yeah, so my understanding in last meeting was, part of the discussion was about trying to evaluate this was to look at other municipalities around us. So I started that process, reached out to North Haven. North Haven, First Selectman Frieda had said that interested, but they had brought in Hamden, so it's a capacity issue. We could still explore with him. I'd have to take a look and take a deeper dive with respect to the numbers and looking at that. So he's open to a discussion. I also called and spoke with Guilford. Guilford has a very smaller, but I'm not sure. I think the capacity is there, but from a physical animal control facility, the capacity I think was there, but they only have one full-time animal control officer. But again, their same response, open to dialoguing if we want to go further. I have a call. I also talked with the mayor of Wallingford. He wants to get back to me. He wasn't quite sure in terms of capacity issues. And I have a call into East Haven as well. I have not heard back from East Haven on that situation yet. So I don't know if the council feels that there's one I should focus on for those discussion. If you're going to rule out that one, again, I'm just thinking geographically how that might be a factor. Maybe it's not a factor, and it's just about capacity and the structure of the deal, service and capacity. So if you want me to continue to explore those that are interested, I'll continue to do that. Just not sure what fruit that it'll bear, and because I'm sure it would take quite a bit of dialogue to get through. Looking at that in terms of a inter-municipal agreement, much like we have with Brantford, but not having to reinvent the wheel, but looking at something that looks like that, based on population and so forth. So if that's the direction, I will continue. Just looking for feedback.
I have a question. This is really helpful, seeing the calls and all of the data. Not to be annoying, but do we have the data for Brantford?
Yeah, that's it.
Because I want to know the percentage of how our 161 or the other categories compare to them. Because I'd just be curious to know if our percentage that we currently have with
Is
them
it the
is
1/3,
effective.
2/3?
Yes, exactly. Is it we have 161 complaints and they have similar, or is it significantly more? I'm just curious to see if that reflects the percentage.
Yeah, I don't have that, but I'll ask for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
And
Mike, when we look at this, impounded cats for the whole year was 5, and dogs was 19, that's the total for the whole year?
It went from July to June, right? 5 cats impounded, 19 dogs.
And complaints investigated, that's their facility came out and investigated, not like, because do people call, where do the calls get routed when people call? Do they call the police department and then they get routed there? How does do you know how that flow happens? These are all cases that they specifically handle?
Right. My understanding is, the 161 are the calls that they investigate. And again, I think they're, when I had the email for looking at the numbers here, my understanding is that that's just the initial complaint recorded. So, I'm sure there's a lot of follow-up to each complaint, so, there's probably a lot more behind that. But to your question, I think about the call itself, I don't know the answer, but my guess is that it's a little bit of both, that it's probably coming through dispatch and/or people that know and call Cosgrove, just call directly if they got a complaint.
My guess is most of them call the police department. That would be my guess.
That's what I was thinking.
Well, I know, I think I've read on someplace is if it's after hours, you call the police department, because they don't have someone on all the time. So whether like during the daytime hours, if people know to call Cosgrove, or if they just call the police and the police.
My guess is probably a lot of people don't even know to call. I would guess they don't know to call.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Like, I don't have the numbers in front of me. What's the total amount we give Brantford per year for this?
130. somewhere around 130,000.
Yeah, 120, yeah.
135.
I'll tell you, it'd be a nice business for somebody.
My plan.
Grab
So,
20.
how many of these animals end up in their shelter?
Well, it says impounded 5 cats,
119.
19 dogs.
For the whole year.
But then there's redeemed. What are redeemed
That-
dogs?
Re-
I interpreted that as.
Dogs that are taken,
reunited.
What's
reunited.
a carryover?
Right.
They're left over from the year before.
Maybe it happened one other time.
I
They
thought
got
maybe-
carried over
Good.
instead of.
Well, I mean, out of
Unfortunately-
19 dogs impounded, 16 were redeemed.
This
So,
would be a good Eagle project for the Boy
Right,
Scouts.
and I, you know, again, what I didn't mention was, I had the same questions. Laura is on vacation this week, so I haven't gotten that. So I will drill down into this because, yeah, redeemed is that, it is a reunited and so forth.
Can't we have our representative come and speak to us? I think she'd probably be able to answer some of our
I think
questions.
he said he was on vacation.
No,
Yeah.
the director, but our representative can be, yeah, we can ask.
Stephanie, is it Stephanie Malkin?
I think it still is Stephanie.
She's on vacation.
Yes. And we'll invite her, or if you think it's important to have the director Laura here as well, we can invite both.
Well, because I mean, if you look at it, and I know there's more involved, but if you look at just the numbers, it's 161, so it's about $830 per animal. It's going to go up to over $1,400 per animal if we remained at 161, whatever that
Yeah.
whatever that 161 means. It just
That's per complaint. It's just a complaint. They're
right.
not even
So,
taking
I mean,
it.
So it's gonna basically almost double, not quite, maybe, almost double if I have the numbers right. So it's just
Yeah.
concerning, I guess.
Yeah. And again, to kind of hone in on the word animal, there is a difference, like, for example, Guilford. When talking with Guilford, it's dogs only, my understanding, I'll get clarification, but I'm pretty sure he told me it's dogs only, whereas Cosgrove is responding to, if there's an abandoned rabbit or pet, it's like, they take care of everything. So I think if you walk into Cosgrove, you're gonna see dogs, cats, and, reptiles, birds.
They turned people away because I had a cat that I had found, and they said, no, sorry.
Who turned?
So they do turn you away,
Cosgrove?
yeah.
Oh, okay, well,
So just an
What
FYI.
did they?
From North Branford?
That,
What was the
well, I
story?
went there, I had found a cat, and there was no way I was keeping this cat, but it kept coming to our home.
mhm.
And he said, no, they said chances are cat will be fine in the wild. He'll be able to.
Just,
So
Okay.
we have a
Doesn't make any
lovely cat
sense.
now, if anyone.
So can the
is interested.
information that we get included be put for the conditions?
I
of
think
which
that's
they take or
important
don't
because
take
they don't
animals
just take all.
And reject calls?
Yeah, so I mean, Laura will be back next week. I can reach out to her and also our representative, and I think it might be important I think would helpful to color in the gaps and get as much information and drill down in terms of getting full understanding of how it operates. But, unless there's any other specifics, I'll pursue.
I think it would be helpful if they're here so that we don't have to keep going back and forth. We have questions, you can't answer them, obviously, so I think it would be helpful to have them.
And I would continue, in the meantime, continue to pursue the other towns, just to see if we can get something, some information, just so that we have a measurement, something we can compare.
Mhm, okay.
Okay, next we have a request from superintendent for the return of
That's
special
tabled.
education.
That's tabled.
Until September.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, next, number 9, we're moving new business, discussion and action, award bid specifications for bid number 12, 2020-2021, Smith Library interior painting.
Yes, so, there she is, right on cue. Lauren Davis. Lauren Da-
everyone.
Lauren Davis.
So the town received 3 total bids for the interior painting of the Smith Library project. Unfortunately, the lowest bidder, which was Pro Paint at $22,300, did not submit all the required paperwork, information, documentation. They really just submitted a quote, so they were excluded from consideration. The next low bidder was Base Management, and their proposal was approximately $6,000 more, but was still just shy of what was budgeted for the entire project. And then the final proposal was over what was budgeted for the entire project by about $3,000, and that was from Scholar Painting and Restoration. After contacting the references for Base Management, I feel comfortable in suggesting them for approval of the award. All their references had nothing but positive things to say. They were effective, efficient, great communicators, very well organized. Their quality of work was met their expectations, if not exceeded their expectations. A lot of the references I spoke to said that they plan on using them for future projects. So there really was nothing negative to say. There is a big gap between the lowest bidder, like I said, at Pro Paint versus the next one at Base Management. But after speaking to the references for Base Management, and they did painting for schools, they did some restoration painting. I feel confident, like I said, in recommending them to receive the bid award.
So how long, what's their estimate for the project completion, like from start to finish?
In the bid, it was 3 weeks.
Okay.
Consecutive days, 21 consecutive days.
Okay. And they're ready to start when the bid is awarded?
Yeah. And the other thing I should mention, we talked about scheduling and budgeting, and every one of the references said scheduling timeline-wise, there was no issues. A couple of even said they came under budget. One of the references had a $60,000 restoration project, and they actually came in $20,000 less. So that was a positive, but there was no concern, especially with timeline. And it's important to me because we're going to close Smith Library so that there isn't public interference. So I don't really want it closed any longer than for 3 weeks. That was stated in the bid specs. So.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to award bid number 12, 2021 of the Smith Library interior painting to Base Management for the sum not to exceed $28,659.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Councilor Angeloni, second by Councilor Diamond. Any further discussion on this? Okay, we vote, Michelle.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained?
Okay, next we have review and discussion on draft 2021 proposal resolution adopting an ordinance regulating cannabis.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I had presented the town council with a draft ordinance relating to the regulation of recreational cannabis on town-owned property under the control of the town, and in the open section of restaurants. As the council knows, on June 20th of this year, Governor Lamont signed into law Senate Bill 1201, which is an act concerning the responsible and equitable regulation of adult-use cannabis. So for the first time in the history of the state, marijuana is legal to be consumed by individuals age 21 or older. What Senate Bill 1201 allows a municipality to do is a number of things with respect to the regulation of cannabis. The zoning commission will have the ability to regulate the location of dispensaries, they're generally called. They're establishments that sell recreational cannabis to the general public. And at the zoning level, the zoning commission will decide whether or not they're going to prohibit it in its entirety, or whether or not they're going to regulate it, meaning allow it but in only certain locations. The legislative body has the authority to regulate the public consumption of recreational cannabis on public property, on property under the control of the town, and in the open sections of any restaurant. So that's a decision, a policy decision that you need to consider. And if you would like to regulate it, what the ordinance before you does is prohibits everything that Senate Bill 1201 allows you to prohibit, meaning it very simply provides that no person shall smoke. Now, I extended this to cigarette smoking as well because there's law that allows you to prohibit cigarette smoking as well. You can strike that if you'd like, but no person shall smoke tobacco and/or cannabis products in any form or use electronic delivery systems or vapor products containing tobacco and/or cannabis upon or within the limits of any outdoor section of restaurants or on public property or property under the control of the town. Now, just so you know, property under the control of the town, I defined as all public property, including but not limited to sidewalks, streets, roads, public rights-of-way, playgrounds, parks, fields, property owned by a land trust, municipal land, municipal buildings, polling places, public transportation vehicles, and facilities and education facilities. So basically, you can't walk down, if you adopt this, you can't walk down the street between you and your neighbor's house and consume recreational cannabis.
And cigarettes as well, right?
And cigarettes. Okay, so, again, under Connecticut General Statute 7-148, the municipality, which is the Municipal Powers Act, the municipality has great discretion in regulating conduct that affects the public health, safety, and welfare. So if you believe that this is an issue that is necessary to be regulated in order to protect the general health, safety, and welfare of your residents, then you can regulate it. If you do not believe that this is a matter of concern, then you can just simply leave it alone. But understand that would mean at your Poco Fest, people could smoke marijuana or consume marijuana, and that may become a matter of concern for people of any age. So it's really for you to debate and deliberate and decide on what you want to do. All I did was present you with an ordinance that prohibits it. Now, I will let you know I'm in an interesting conundrum as a lawyer because under the rules of professional conduct, I cannot engage in assisting a client with violating the law. So I'm allowed to do things that prohibit the use of cannabis. But because the consumption of cannabis remains a violation of federal law, if I were to draft a regulation that regulated the allowance of the use, I would be engaging in unethical behavior. So because technically it's a violation of federal law, even though the feds are not policing it at the moment.
So what about all of the lawyers who work for the legislature?
That's
They are
between them
elected?
that's between them and their ethics. I don't want to be a test bunny for anyone to test the ethics of it. Now, I'll tell you, I've researched the issue. I have not seen any lawyer being hit with an ethical charge anywhere in the country, and this has been handled in Colorado for at least, I think, the last probably 10 years. So it's probably a matter of negligible concern, but it is a matter of ethics, and in a matter of ethics, is left to the individual, and I would like to think that I need to stand by my ethical obligations to my
I just
profession.
want to make sure I understand. If a neighbor right now walks from his house to his neighbor's house smoking a cigarette, it's okay, but then with this ordinance, he wouldn't be able to do that?
Correct.
If he was on the public road.
No,
He said
sidewalk.
Road.
Sidewalk.
Well, so if they went through the yard,
No, but I'm sure there are people that do that now. but-
They walk
Yeah.
the streets.
I just want to make sure I understand that.
Also, at the Poco Fest, is cigarette smoking allowed at the Poco Fest right now?
well, it's not supposed to be, but
Okay.
who's,
Like, is there a sign, or like, is the
Yes.
policy, okay, so it's
Yeah.
prohibited?
Yeah, but who's policing it and who's gonna write the tickets? I've never seen a ticket written, I've seen plenty of people smoking.
And that, this comes down to really a policy ordinance to do your best to prohibit it, but at the end of the day, it will become a policing matter. And just because someone is engaging in conduct that's violative of the law doesn't always mean they suffer a penalty, right? So most municipalities are, and in fact, I even heard Metro North with respect to the use of masks. Wearing a mask on Metro North is the law. And the Metro North is authorized to ticket people for failure. What they're doing, instead of ticketing people, is they're handing people masks. And people then are putting a mask on. So, there's public education. There is, in my mind, a distinction between the public consumption of cannabis and the public consumption of alcohol, because the aroma of marijuana extends further than the aroma of alcohol. And so if I'm sitting at a public concert, I may smell marijuana on the other side of the field, but I'm not likely to smell the alcohol. There's debate over, having less problems with people smoking smoking marijuana than drinking alcohol. So this is a debate that you need to have, and I'm not here to make decisions. I'm only here to help you come to a conclusion.
So what's the timeline and what happened? What's the events that have to occur? And do we have to have an ordinance?
You are under no obligation to have an ordinance.
Okay.
Number one, there is no timeline except that if this is something you want to prohibit, you cannot prohibit it until you advance the ordinance process, which would require a public hearing, right? And then it would become, assuming you were to adopt this, I'm going to use the hypothetical of today, which you can't because of the public hearing process, but under Senate Bill 1201, the law would not become effective until October 1. The ordinance would not become effective until October 1, because that's the earliest that Senate Bill 1201 allows you to have an ordinance like this in place. So for purposes of the effective date, I set it as the ordinance shall take effect on the later of October 1, 2021, or 30 days after its publication in a newspaper following a public hearing. Because the statute provides that there's a 30-day window post-publication for ordinances to become.
Are many municipalities forwarding this ordinance?
I represent 9 municipalities, and right now, 4 of the 9, actually 5 of the 9, Greenwich is went in its own different kind of direction, but in this region, 4 of the remaining 8 are considering an ordinance identical to this.
Considering.
Yeah, it's going to public hearing next month at the Board of Selectmen in Orange. Beacon Falls considered it and sent it to public hearing this past Monday. Seymour referred it to their ordinance subcommittee, and Bethany is going to consider it tomorrow night at its town meeting.
So, I mean, consuming cannabis right now is legal in Connecticut. And I feel that right now I haven't heard from any constituents who are bringing this to us. I mean, maybe others here have, I haven't. So I feel like I probably would not support it for now. Not that I wouldn't support it if people came to us and asked for it, but I think it's a good thing to discuss. So
the question, the only question on the table at the moment is, do you want to refer it for public hearing? Just because you refer it for public hearing doesn't mean you have to adopt it, but that invites the public to come and speak to you on the subject.
I think we should. My opinion.
I think we should too, give the public chance.
Well, how would the public hearing, how would it go?
You would make a motion to open up your public hearing.
Yeah.
And then you would say, is there anyone from the public who would like to speak? And then you would either hear crickets or you would hear people come up and give their opinion.
No, but I guess what I'm referring to then is, do they read the proposal? Do we read that to them?
Well,
And let them respond,
That
or
would be
just?
published, right?
So what would likely happen is a copy of the proposed ordinance would be on file with the clerk's office, so the public could go to the clerk's office to inspect it. Maybe a copy would be left at the libraries for people to access it, and probably put on the website.
We put it in Totucket Times, maybe?
Totucket Times, yeah.
Yeah. Generally, municipalities waiver on that because of the expense of publication, but that's your call.
So we would, I'm just at, I mean, we would do, it would be common to do that before we.
Well, because we
You have to.
Yeah.
No, what I mean is, like, we wouldn't, it wouldn't be, the council typically wouldn't try to tweak it and then hand it to the public.
You can do that. You can do
Well,
that.
you
But I'm
give
just wondering
their
what's
feedback,
common,
yeah.
you know,
Usually
what-
you give their feedback, and we discuss, and then we
Right.
decide
Yeah.
or make revisions
Right.
based on what we hear or not.
And you can go in either direction. So what I did was I went to the extent that the law allowed you to go. If you want to strike tobacco from it, you can, and if you don't want to send it to public hearing with reference to tobacco, then you can instruct me to strike tobacco. If you feel that smoking a marijuana cigarette, or I guess commonly referred to as a joint, is more offensive than a electronic delivery product, because maybe there's a distinction between the two. You know, maybe you prohibit it in one form but not another. Maybe you're not troubled or concerned about the consumption, because again, now cannabis is not only smoked, it's consumed in the forms of candy bars and cookies and brownies. So maybe that is not offensive to you if I want to come down to listen to a concert and take, 20 or 30 milligrams of an edible, which is not producing an offense to my surrounding constituents. Maybe you don't want to regulate that. These are things that you have to debate because of the nature of the purpose here is to protect public health, safety, and welfare. Maybe
So-
you might find that there is no need to protect health, safety, and welfare because this doesn't pose a risk.
So, tobacco, and cannabis, you brought up vaping. Is that part of this too?
Yes, this ordinance defines electronic delivery systems, which I defined as electronic cannabis delivery systems as defined by Connecticut General Statute 19A 342A, subsection 2, and by the Senate Bill 1201, section 87A3, and electronic tobacco delivery systems as defined by Connecticut General Statute 21A 415-6 and Senate Bill 87-5. So, and again, to the extent that people are aware of these electronic delivery systems, some say they pose a greater risk than smoking a cigarette because it infuses oil into your lungs rather than smoke. So, these are the great debates of our times that we have to decide on whether or not we are going to even get involved.
So if we basically post what you have written there, have a public meeting, get the feedback from the public, then we can base our decisions on what we hear from them, and then,
Absolutely. Yeah, the ordinance
Yeah.
going into the public hearing doesn't necessarily need to be the ordinance that you adopt.
right, just
You can
gets feedback.
modify your ordinance after the public hearing, and it could look completely different.
Do we have to have another public hearing after we make modifications?
I would say you're making modifications based upon your input
Okay.
from your public. So, if you prohibited, because it's in my head right now, fire trucks, right? And where we started with prohibiting cannabis and tobacco, I would say that's a material change and it has to go out back for public hearing. But if you're striking certain things from the ordinance and you're making it less restrictive than what it was proposed, then I would say you do not.
Okay.
Ben, is there anything with the state passing that? Is there anything that, how do you want to say? If we just said we're banning it, everything totally, Could the state say, no, you can't do that?
No, the state has authorized you to ban it totally. So that's what Senate Bill 1201, I believe it's Section 84, authorizes the municipality. What that section does is amends 7-148, which is the Municipal Powers Act. So your authority to act is limited to whatever the legislature granted to you. And Senate Bill 1201 extends you the ability to prohibit the public consumption of cannabis on public property, property under the control of the town, and in public sections of restaurants. That means I am still free to sit on my front yard
Right.
and smoke cannabis or
Right.
consume cannabis,
Yep.
right? So it doesn't prohibit it within the town,
Right.
only on public property and in public areas.
So that'd be the only place you could.
That would be where you could not.
So that's, we could not stop that.
You do not have the authority to stop it on private property.
Right.
Except in the outdoor areas of restaurants.
But currently, there's no control.
Currently, right now, if I wanted to leave this building on the way to the car and consume cannabis, that would not be a violation of the law.
Like, right today, someone could be at a Little League game and smoke a joint in the stands.
That is correct.
Okay.
Wow.
Or,
Or cigarettes,
Or cigarettes.
and secondhand smoke.
Can they drink a beer?
I don't think so.
I have to look at your
No, they
ordinances.
can't. I don't think they can.
No.
I didn't
No,
think
because-
so, but I just,
right, we
I'm
always
just
lift it
curious.
for the,
Right,
There must be
right,
something
you have to get a
about
permit.
alcohol.
yeah, well, you
Yeah,
have to have a
you
waiver of
can't-
the
I thought you
council,
couldn't have
otherwise there's no
alcohol on
alcohol
town-
permitted.
Town-owned property.
You may have an ordinance prohibiting alcohol.
Okay.
Yeah, because we always have to grant permission.
Permission
for
to
the
have
local
that.
Oh, right, okay, yeah. But there's nothing in place for cannabis yet.
No,
Okay.
again, this is a bill, this is a law that just came into being on June 20th. And, you know, and again, I bring it to you for conversational purposes only. As I say to every one of my clients, you're free to do whatever you want. I can only give advice.
Could be some interesting Little League games.
Some interesting Little League games. Better have a lot of snacks.
Concession revenues.
They'll have so
Hey,
many, they
hey,
could build that
hey.
Field of Dreams right behind the other one.
There you go. It'll be a field of dreams, all right.
The only other thing I would suggest is, I don't know what public interest this is going to generate. It could generate, again, no one, or you could have 200 people show up. So, like in Orange, they've moved their location, because it's a public hearing, you have to hold it wherever you publish the location. So if you wanted to stay here, and if you're limited to
65.
65, if you get 67, you can't proceed with your public hearing unless people will agree to stay outside, but if
Right.
you cannot proceed because of overpopulation, you can't simply say, let's jump in the car and run up to the cafeteria at the school. You would have to adjourn your public hearing and
Reestablish
republish it.
another day.
Right.
What's
Or-
the next,
right.
what's the next size venue, Mike?
The cafeteria and then the auditorium at the campus, yeah.
Probably assume maybe be a little bigger just in case, right?
Yeah, the largest we have would be the auditorium.
But with the current demolition work, is that?
People-
You
Yeah,
might
yeah,
wanna
you
do
can
the-
still get into
Still
the
get into it, I
auditorium.
think, yeah.
Yeah.
I'd like to suggest that maybe we all just take time to read it again, maybe talk about it next
Absorb
meeting.
it.
Absorb it before we
Yeah.
talk about it
There's-
hearing.
there's
I just
no-
think that now that I'm hearing some of this stuff, I feel like I want to read it again.
Yeah, I think we should just keep it under unfinished business right
Okay.
now, just
Yep.
so that it can come back to us and.
And wait to see if you get comments from the public,
Yeah.
right, which you very well may.
And absorb it.
Okay. Thank you, Vin.
You're welcome.
Anthony? Appropriation transfers?
Yep, this is probably second to the last time, but probably the next meeting will be the last one. for 2021. Some of the larger items on here we talked about previously as far as items we thought were going to be covered by FEMA events that didn't meet the threshold. The police overtime, you've been advised of that all along due to some long-time vacancies and officers out injured. And Fran's department, you see a large one there, 112. Again, expenses that we incurred as related to the Izzy-Isa storm that did not qualify on a state level for a FEMA declaration, so we moved some money around to cover that. The second page has some smaller ones as well, litigation. Again, that's always a wild card every year, how much money we spend on litigation. Again, there'll be some additional transfers coming to you at the first meeting in September, and that will be the end of it. We'll close off the last fiscal year at that point.
I make a motion to approve the appropriation transfers as submitted.
Second.
The thing is screwed.
Okay, motion by Councilor Angeloni.
Was this, I'm sorry, was this item
C,
9C?
yes,
Yeah.
appropriation transfers. It's just out of order in the,
Okay. Oh, so in here, because it says
it says
garbage.
9D in our book on the thing, but it's really 9C.
Okay, so 9C on here is the tote, so that's not it.
Correct.
So then, 9D.
9D,
So 9D is 9C.
correct.
Makes sense. Okay.
I'm totally confused.
It's just labeled wrong and
Yeah,
in the
that's
wrong
fine.
order, so.
Okay.
All right, so Councilor Angeloni, seconded by
Councilor Diamond,
Diamond.
any
Okay,
further
thank you.
discussion? Have a vote, please, Michelle.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain?
Okay, Anthony, next
The
one.
contingency appropriation is for the new year. As you recall in the discussion, the whole John's issue, there were short on some toters. So Michelle had got a price to buy both some blue and brown ones. And it's on the second page of your memo. There is the need to buy it with a credit card for expediency's sake, which is going to incur a couple of dollars more, but you just got to get them in. I guess they're out of them and they're using blue ones instead of brown ones or vice versa because they have none up there of one of the particular kinds. So this is the vendor that John's has used in the past, and it's to buy some toters.
Okay, so I make a motion to approve the contingency appropriation to purchase garbage and recycling toters in the amount of $16,275.
I'll second that.
Okay. Motion by Councilor Angeloni, seconded by Councilor Gold. Any further discussion?
How many of those, Anthony, do we know?
112 of each one.
On the
Second page.
proposal.
Oh.
Oh, okay. All right, thank you.
You're getting a new one.
You vote, Michelle?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain?
Next is approval of tax refunds.
So,
Second.
Okay. Motion by Councilor Angeloni, second by Councilor Diamond. Any further discussion?
All in favor?
aye.
Opposed? Abstain?
Next we have,
Gotta read something else.
citizen statements and petitions.
Just one quick item, I think this should be in your packet, at least I hope it is, rendering of the plaque for Joanne Wentworth. That's what they came up with and the location, so hope that's acceptable to everyone.
That's good.
Is that hanging already, or is this just?
No,
No,
superimposed, yeah.
It's just,
Yeah.
it's just up for
I wondered the
approval.
same thing.
It looks real.
Yeah, that's all I had.
Good graphic design work.
Yeah, very good.
All right, motion to adjourn.
Citizen statements?
That's it. That's,
Second, whatever. Motion.
Who?
I don't know.
we'll
See, you know what it is? It's just
Diamond
too early.
moved.
I know,
It's just
it's
too
just
early,
way
so
too early.
it's like,
I
nobody
know, it's
can't
not
figure
even-
it
I
out.
know.
Confused.
I'll second.
Seconded by Angeloni. Okay, thank you. To adjourn at 8:46.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
Any discussion?
Yeah.
Under normal circumstances, I would have completed my review. before I went home.